What's going on, guys? Welcome back. It's been a minute. A Las Vegas Grand Prix has come and went, but we're not here to talk about that yet. Video on that one coming soon, as we did attend in person. So I'm working on something a little extra special for that one. That one will be coming here, probably after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but we'll cover that one when we get to it. We're here now to talk about the final round of the 2023 F1 season, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The 23rd race of this season, or I guess I should say 22nd, since Imola didn't really happen, but it's round 23 nonetheless. We're going to talk about everything that's going to happen this weekend here in Abu Dhabi, including making our predictions about what we're going to see on track this weekend. It's been a long year when it comes to on-track action and 20-something odd rounds of F1 in a row. But it's all coming to end of this weekend. We're going to talk about it. But first, if you are not subscribed, go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload. And yeah, leave a comment down below as well, along with me, what your predictions are going to be for the final round of this season of F1. We're going to jump into it. We're going to start things off with our biggest positive surprise. Kicking things off with our biggest positive surprise. Now, this can be a team, it can be a driver, it can be something in between. This week we have gone for a driver, and I don't think this is necessarily going to be because of his on-track action and how he's going to surpass his current level, but I think it's going to be a big positive surprise just because he has been probably one of the most unlucky drivers in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 rounds at least. My biggest positive surprise is Oscar Piastri, and I think that's entirely just because he has had damage or just bad luck every single weekend. I think since Qatar, since he won the sprint race in Qatar and had a very, very good weekend in Qatar, he has just had either damage that led to retirement or just unlucky timings of safety cars or more damage or being caught up in incidents behind. I think this could be a good opportunity for Oscar to end the season and a little bit of momentum, a nice clean weekend from start to finish. And he's obviously shown a propensity for having good pace in that McLaren, and I think Abu Dhabi and Yas Marina could be a circuit that suits their car very, very well. So Oscar, congratulations. You're my pick for biggest positive surprise. Moving things right along to, I think, my biggest reverse jinx ability that has come from this season. Whoever I picked to do biggest disappointment seems to always do extremely well. And it really, the only, I think, points I've gotten from biggest disappointment this year has been because of other factors and not necessarily on pure pace or ability. So congratulations to who I picked for biggest disappointment, because it's almost inevitable that you're going to turn it around. I picked Alpine for Vegas, and they immediately turned it around and had a fantastic weekend in a track that not many of us really expected it. So my biggest disappointment pick for the 2023 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Aston Martin. There's been a little too much of a turnaround for Aston Martin these last couple of weekends. I don't know if they finally just unlocked something in the car, but they went from looking absolutely dreadful up until, I think, Brazil, in which all of a sudden they looked like once again back to the beginning season form. And so I think that this weekend it's almost too good. And this is the type of circuit that I don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off, but there's just weird vibes around in my head that Aston Martin just can't keep it up again. So we'll have to see. It has been a bit of a resurgence for them. We have to give them props for that. They've got it absolutely correct. Stroll has actually been driving extremely well. But I mean, they're going to a power circuit that doesn't necessarily fit the same themes as, Interlagos or even Vegas turned out to be more of a technical circuit than I think many of us expected it to be, with the abundance of hard braking zones and tight corners. And so it'll be interesting to see what it looks like here as we head to Yas Marina and see if they can keep up the form. But I don't see it happening. So Aston Martin, I'm sorry, you're my pick for biggest disappointment. Moving things right along, Saturday, our final qualifying session of the year. We're going to talk about our top 3. Starting in P3, I have Charles Leclerc. Charles put an absolute masterclass out there last weekend in Vegas, almost coming home with the win, ultimately falling to the car we all assumed would end up taking the top spot. But he absolutely put a move on Sergio Perez on the final lap of the race to come home P2. So Charles has unlocked a little bit of pace in that SF23. We head to another circuit that is very similar-ish to Vegas, but not necessarily quite the same. Plus, Charles always seems to be a qualifying guy more than most, and that Ferrari is definitely quick over a single lap. So I think Charles going to come home P3 here in qualifying in Abu Dhabi. Moving on to P2, this is a driver that I think is going to want to look for a bit of revenge coming off of last weekend, where his week basically couldn't have gone worse. I've gone for Lando Norris. Obviously, McLaren had a bit of a snafu in qualifying for the Vegas Grand Prix, both of them being knocked out in Q1. Obviously, we saw the pace that Oscar Piastri had in that race, and then Lando also, unfortunately, was on the receiving end of a poorly timed bump and an upsetting of a ground effects car, in which he ended up spinning out of that race fairly early. Thankfully, he is all okay after doing a brief stint in the hospital for that incident. But I think Lando is going to come out, want to put in, the kind of momentum builder that they want going into the off season. And so I think Lando, this is a track that should suit the McLaren very, very well, kind of like I talked about with Oscar and biggest positive surprise. And so I think Lando could be very near the top end of this one, and it should be a good fight if this does end up happening. And then we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. Pole position, Max Verstappen. I don't think that's anything too much to bat an eye at. I don't think any of us will be surprised at all. Obviously, he's won a million races this year. All but 3 at this point. So absolutely crazy. He's probably going to surpass 1,000 laps led in a single season. It's one of the most dominant seasons we've seen in forever. And I think all of us are just a little tired of it. But there it is, my qualifying top 3. I have a Max Verstappen pole, Lando Norris P2, and a Charles Leclerc P3. If that ends up being the top 3 in this one, it could be a pretty juicy fight if things go our way. Time will tell. But there it is. That's my pick for the qualifying top 3. All right, for the final time, podium predictions, Abu Dhabi 2023. I think this is going to sound pretty similar with one minor shakeup here in this one, but it's going to be an exciting race. I hope Abu Dhabi doesn't always produce the most exciting races. Hopefully we get a little bit of something there at the beginning of the race and before it probably settles into more of a tire management simulator more than anything else. So that said, we'll start in P3. I have put Lando Norris P3 into this one. I think this is going to be probably my more contentious pick of the day. I have a Lando Norris P3, a Charles Leclerc P2, and a Max Verstappen win. Now, the Charles Leclerc P2 versus Lando Norris P3 might come down to just how well the strategies come into this one. Who's going to do a one-stop? Who's going to do a two-stop? Who's going to time it perfectly? Safety cars are going to come into play, probably. We're at the end of the season. There's going to be a lot of very worn components out there. We could see some DNFs in this one, which could shake things up a lot. Now, last season, Ferrari did actually manage, in a season where it was not very common, managed to pull off a strategic masterclass in Abu Dhabi to secure Charles Leclerc P2 in the driver's title. Can they repeat that again? This time versus the likes of maybe a McLaren? Time will tell. But they were able to do it last year. We have to give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe Abu Dhabi just speaks to them a little differently, or will the having the drivers and constructors titles already wrapped up keep them a little off the gas? Time will tell. I think Charles is going to want to end. I mean, both of these drivers are going to want to finish on a better foot than the other. More than likely, Charles gonna want to get that last P2 on the year, and Lando, I'm sure, is going to want to do just as well, if not try and do better than even that. It might come down to timings, luck, strategy, and all that, but I have a Max Verstappen win, Charles Leclerc P2, and a Lando Norris P3 in the final podium of 2023. All right, we're wrapping up our predictions with, of course, our Haas predictions for the race weekend. Now, this one, we're not going to spend a lot of time on because I do not see this one going well at all. I definitely had high hopes for us in Vegas with the colder temperatures and the way the Haas likes to put energy through its tires. But for that exact reason, but unfortunately, in the negative side, is Abu Dhabi, which eats tires, in which the Haas also are just really bad on tires. And so my one prediction is pain ensues. I do think we can have the pace to get one car into Q2 potentially, depending on the timings, and maybe we just get lucky. But other than that, no points whatsoever in this one. And so it's going to be pain. It's going to be tough. We really just have to hope that maybe they'll learn a little bit here in this one. They'll be able to put that into the offseason and bring it into 2024 on like the snowball's chance that maybe something absolutely wild happens. We are only 4 points behind Alfa Romeo in the constructors standings, but all in all, it's looking like a P10 finish for Haas in the constructors, and a very, very tough year for us Haas faithful. But there it is, one car into Q2, no points whatsoever, and in general, pain. And we'll finish up this video with, of course, our community predictions. If you're new here, I like to give my community an opportunity to have their predictions included in the video as well. We usually do it here at the end. We'll start with their biggest positive surprises. We have a choice of Yuki Tsunoda and Carlos Sainz. Carlos also one of the poor recipients of Vegas catastrophe last weekend and showed tremendous pace throughout that one anyway. I'm sure he'll also be a guy who wants to go out and prove that he still has the pace and potentially take advantage of a new power unit as well, coming off of his destroyed car in Las Vegas. And then Yuki also been driving unbelievably well here recently. We'll see if that AlphaTauri, who brought upgrades apparently this weekend, are going to be able to take advantage of those upgrades and potentially put AlphaTauri in the fight for P7 in the Constructors. Moving on to their pick for biggest disappointment, we have a choice of Alfa Romeo. Alfa just seems to be all over the place. It seems like one weekend they're really fast and another weekend they just don't have pace. Apparently we have someone who thinks that they are not going to fare well in Abu Dhabi. And our other one for biggest disappointment is just the race weekend in general. Coming off of a Vegas weekend that saw a lot of glitz, a lot of glamour, and a lot of controversy and action on track, Abu Dhabi just maybe won't live up quite to the hype. It kind of does turn into a tire management simulator more than anything. So maybe we'll get lucky and see some on-track action, but they obviously think that it might become more of a procession than anything. Moving on to their qualifying results, we actually have 2 consensus picks, 3 in another way. So their pole position choice, Max Verstappen. We're not playing games anymore. It would be fun. Oh, let's all make different predictions for the last race. No, Max is going to take pole in this one. We all think it, and it probably is going to happen. P2, there's where the split decision on these 3 come in. We have one choice, one Ferrari of Charles Leclerc and the other Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Obviously, we think the Ferrari is going to look pretty good in a single lap pace around Abu Dhabi. And then P3, once again, we're back to consensus. Lando Norris, obviously, we all think Verstappen, a Ferrari, and Lando Norris are going to do very well this weekend. So time will tell in qualifying. Moving on to our race results, once again, unanimous decision for a Max Verstappen win. Yawn, we've seen it before, get some new material. P2, we have a choice for Lando Norris and a choice for Sergio Perez. Perez obviously not necessarily been on the same qualifying pace as Max here this season, but he has shown decent race pace in these circuits like Yas Marina that should suit the Red Bull very well. Like most circuits, we think Checo can continue his little bit of a run of form and potentially put it on the second step here in the final round. Would be great for him to see, I'm sure. And then a P3 pick of Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz on the other. We think Perez could come through a little bit. It'll be exciting to see. I'm excited to see this race. It's going to be a lot of fun. And finally, their Haas predictions for the race weekend. We have another call for just pain and another call for near points, but still none to be found. This is not going to be a circuit that treats the Haas very nicely. I think it's going to just be tough all around for Haas. So it will be what it will be. But guys, that wraps up our final race weekend predictions video of the year. What do you think is going to happen? Let me know down in the comment section below and subscribe so you don't miss our post-race video, our final post-race video of the season, as well as our upcoming season-long predictions recap and see how we did in those. And then we'll talk about the 2023 season as a whole then. But for now, that's going to wrap it up for me here. Stay safe. I appreciate you guys all the time this year. This has been an incredible year for us, and we're going to have a lot of fun covering this 2023 season after it's over, as well as start looking at the 2024 season ahead. But for now, I hope you enjoy the race weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.